And away we go, folks.
Tell them who we are, Bob.
Well,
But don't
this is
tell them who we are.
not really. This is the Mountain Oracle. I'm Bob, and over here is Wild Ronnie.
Yeah. What's going on?
Well, with the virus going around, about everything else has just disappeared. Not too much else going on, but the virus. There's no problem in the Ukraine. Uh, there's there's no problem anywhere. Because the coronavirus has just superseded and taken over everything.
Well, yeah, the only thing people dies of anymore is the virus. They never die from heart attacks and stroke
Right?
and all that stuff.
No heart attacks, no cancer, no nothing. Just coronavirus.
Well, might well get used to it. It looks like it's going to be here for a while.
Well, I hope so.
I stay all the time in the woods I can, not to get away from the virus especially, but to get away from the people that's got the virus.
That's true. Let me ask you something. Did you write me in for president today?
No, I didn't vote.
Didn't you?
I don't plan to make but one more vote. And
Well,
I'm going
you,
to do that in November if I have to walk to the poll.
I did a write-in ballot for myself for president.
Well, I hadn't thought about it, but if I knowed you to running, I'd have voted for you too.
Well, we appreciate that.
I had a cousin run for a local office one time, and I wrote him in for everything else. He got beat anyway. Done pretty good, though, for the first time out. He didn't really want to fool. He just didn't run no more.
Well, you know, I got 240 some votes last time I run.
Well, was you running for president?
No, that was when I was running for county mayor.
I know. I thought maybe you'd run for president and I didn't know about it.
No, not really. If I run and if I'm elected, you will certainly know about it.
Yeah, I know it. I'd have had to left the whole country.
Well, but for myself, I try to stay out of the way of catching this virus because at my age, I probably would not survive a good.
I believe you'd kill the virus, Bob.
Well, I might possibly do that. I had the Asian flu in 1962, and I haven't had the flu since, so maybe that tells you something.
I had it a few times. It ain't no fun. I reckon it's A. Victoria. They call it, that wasn't a swine flu. It was rough, though. I had that in 70. I got it in April of 76. And I didn't really get over it till July.
Right. Well, I caught my Asian flu.
In Asia?
No, in the fall of 1962. And I think the only reason I caught it, I was farming, I was teaching school, and that summer I was farming and working third shift at the same time. And I just worked myself down so weak that probably would have caught anything, including a Greyhound bus, if it had come by.
Well, I guess that's why, no, I'd have got it anyway, I guess, but I was pretty well worked out when I got the worst case I remember. Now, I had the flu, and they called it, what did they call that?
Swine flu?
No, that was in the swine flu. First time, they called something else swine flu since then, but the swine flu was what they got all upset about. That soldier up there in Maryland died, and they panicked. This was under Jerry Ford, so it must have been 75, 74, 75. Maybe that's what I got. Maybe I had the swine flu, but I want you to know it was rough.
Right.
And I had the flu in 58. No, it was earlier than that. I had it, I was a little bitty feller. And then I had it in I had a not too bad case of it in 1970, but I got over. I mean, I'm sure I've had the flu several times, but just knocked down just about twice. And I want you to know now, me and I have a flu shot every year, and me and I got the flu a couple of years ago. I got it twice in the same year, and it was rough, but it wasn't near as rough as I've had. It was no fun.
Right. Well, I think, you know, in 1962, that's the first and last time I've had the flu. Of course, you know, I had food poisoning.
Well, if you'd throw something away every now and then instead of trying to save it,
Yeah,
whenever you got mater juice, Bob, and it turns green, don't shake it up and drink it.
that I couldn't see at night. I didn't even turn the light on.
You found out what was in there after that, did you?
I sure did. Not too many hours after that.
I got food poisoning. I got food poisoning on Banana Split at the Tennessee Drive-In on Thanksgiving Day of 1967, and that was the worst I ever had it. Oh boy, that was awful. And then I got it again. I got it twice in the same year. I got food poisoning up here at bowling alley. I got it from a hamburger steak. And I got it at a pizza place that will remain nameless because they're still in business. Got it there, and I got it there in the fall, and then I got it to other place after the new year, but within a year, and I quit eating out. I didn't eat out for 5 years, I guess. I just refused to do it. Learned my lesson.
I reckon so. Yeah, the food poisoning, it's kind of rough, but it's tough. You know, I had it at one time, and I don't believe I want to have it again.
Well, I thought maybe you were just an advocate for everybody to get it at least every 2 years.
Well, it wouldn't even take their attention off the coronavirus, so everybody come down with it. You know,
Well,
I've just been watching a lot of your national news, you know, and so about everything relates back to the coronavirus. You know, they're not worried about the federal deficit or the federal debt anymore. Doesn't seem to have any problem with it at all, and we're not worried about foreign relations or anything, and they even have stopped trying to impeach Trump. So
no, they busy trying to put him in jail now. Oh, they're done planning on lawing him after he gets out of being president. If I was them, I wouldn't be writing up nothing right now. I ain't sure he's leaving in November.
it's hard to say. You know, it's kind of tough out there. You know, Joe Biden, he'll be all right. You know, if they'll hire him a good service animal to lead him around.
He won't know where he's at though. But
Well, no, he won't know where he's at, but at least the service animal will keep him from getting run over.
well,
should
I
he
hadn't
cross
thought of
the
that.
street.
Keep him out of the road, won't it?
Yeah, keep him from getting run over or falling down the ditch or something like that.
I don't know. This country's challenged right now. I'll tell you one thing though. Do you realize? Can you just imagine how rich Oprah Winfrey be if she was white?
Oh, for Winfrey.
Yeah, you know, she said that as well as she's done, she still wasn't as blessed as the white privileged people because they have it so much easier. And instead of being $2.5 billion, she'd probably own the country if she'd have been white. Can you imagine how far she'd go if she was white? I mean,
Is that right?
she's a multi-billionaire, and
Oh,
that's billion now, not million.
I know it. You know, dude, you imagine, like I say, she'd probably be king of the world or queen of the world if she
Maybe
was white.
both.
Yeah. So you might be both. I don't know. You know, it's interesting. I know the family of her boyfriend down in High Point, North Carolina. I knew them real well, know right where they lived, the house, and everything. And I'd met him several times. Don't really remember meeting him, but I
Who him?
do know the family.
Him who? Her daddy?
Uh huh. So,
I don't know nothing about it. Well, she's from West Tennessee, wasn't she?
I think she was, yeah, originally, yeah. But he's from High Point, North Carolina, and they're right up there off of High Street, right across the railroad tracks. Very nice little old neighborhood, and like I say, had a real brick house and everything like that. You know, if he'd been white, he'd probably lived in a vinyl siding house.
Well, we all growed up in tar paper shacks, didn't we?
Right, yeah. But Oprah, and she and all of them, you know, they've got a misconception as to who they are, where they are, why they are, and what they are. You know, they have a complete misconception. They need to go back to the basics. They need to go back over on the Congo River and reestablish their roots. And then they will realize what it means to be an American and to live in this country and to come from the west part of Tennessee and become a multi-billionaire, you know, with all the things that they had against them. And it's just terrible that they couldn't rise to the heights that they really felt like they ought to achieve. The only thing that they could not do was they so resent being black. I hate to say that, but the black people resent being black. And there's not anything you can do about that. You know, I'm dark-skinned myself, and there's not anything I want to do about it. But I think black people really resent being black. And
Well, not all of them, but I don't measure anybody by what they look like, but the way they act sort of does get to me.
no, it don't make any difference to me what color a person is. You know, it doesn't really make any difference to me what religion a person has, as long as he don't.
As long as his religion don't involve cutting your throat.
Yeah, it's true. And you know, the coronavirus has impacted religion in a number of ways. You know, the government has reopened a lot of bars and everything, but not reopened churches. So that's kind of odd. You know, it hurt people to go to bars and protest and do things like that. You know, they will allow thousands of people to go out and protest.
They encourage that.
Encourage it, and then try to keep the churches closed. So, because it's dangerous for the churches to have a service because it spread the virus.
Well, I think it would be nice if the Kung Flu only got lawyers and politicians, and then we'd be all right.
Well, I would think so. You know the difference between, can you tell whether it's a lawyer or a skunk that's been run over on the road? You know how to tell the difference?
No, how?
There's skid marks in front of the skunk.
I do know that they started using or proposed using lawyers in lab experiments because there's some things a rat won't do.
True. That's true.
But tell me a tale, Bob. By the way, you know our mutual friend Sam the girl, the woman,
Yeah, okay,
You
yeah.
promised her to tell the story about the bucket and the bees.
Oh,
And you never did get around to it, and I never have remembered to remind you till now.
well, we can do that. As a young boy, we lived on a farm. I was reared on a farm, and you know the difference between being reared and raised, don't you?
No, what's the
Well,
difference?
well, the men are raised and the women are reared.
Is that the way it works?
Yeah, that's the way it goes. So I lived on a
I think
farm.
there's something going on there, but I won't delve into it too deeply.
I lived on a farm, and we had a pasture that was kind of remote from the house. It was in an old white tar type clay uh, area of the farm. It didn't anything grow very good on it, and we kept a cow down there. It was enough in there. It's about 7, 8, 10 acre pastures, just barely enough to on it to feed one cow. We kept a milk cow down there.
Poor milk cow.
So instead of bringing the milk cow back to the house, we would go down to the pasture and milk the cow there. Well, I had a brother that was, I still have his only brother I have. He was so insistent that I do an equal part of the work with him. Well, he was the one that was milking the cow, but he insisted that I carry the bucket from the house. It's a big old heavy bucket. Half of it was covered so it wouldn't get anything in it, and it was a milk bucket. And he insisted I carry that bucket down to where the cow was in the pasture. Well, going down that lane, I run ahead of him with the bucket, and I had to use the bathroom. I had to pee. And there was a hole in the ground there, which I didn't know it at the time, was full of yellow jackets. So I peed in that hole, and the yellow jackets started to come out. So I set that bucket on top of it. Didn't turn it over. I set the bucket on top of the hole so the yellow jackets couldn't get out.
Yeah.
And I went on down the road, and my brother come along, saw the milk bucket there, and he picked that milk bucket up, and the yellow jacket just swarmed out and just stung him some kind of bad. Well, he chased me for about 2 hours there through the bushes, tried to catch me. He was going to beat me for doing that. But that's the story of the bucket over the yellow jacket.
Did you ever get the cow milked?
I think we did eventually milk. I think maybe I had the milk cow. I'd go down there, and he'd start milking. He'd make me do the milking, which.
Well, what'd he do? Just go along to tell you how?
Well, no, he was the one that was supposed to do the milking, but he made sure I did my share and sometimes his share.
Who carried the bucket back when it had milk in it?
Well, he had to carry it back because old cow gave about 2 gallons, and that was a little bit more than I could carry, you know.
Okay.
So that's the story of the milk bucket over the hole in the ground.
Well, I never did have a brother. I guess me and him both lucky, and I never did have one.
Really? Well, Sam, that's the story of that.
My seat keeps rolling back. I can't stay
Well,
still.
mine does too.
I need brakes on this thing.
No, what you need to do, you need to get Dixie come down here and level this floor up.
Well, I could lean it toward the table. I'd roll in instead of out. I guess there's worse things, though. Wish we had some good watermelon. You ain't got no watermelon, do you?
No, don't have any watermelons. There ought to be some good watermelons over in Missouri right now.
A long ways to go.
Yeah, it's a long ways to go.
500 miles.
It's 500 miles just to get to Missouri.
I know. Well, time you got to where you bought the watermelons, it'll be at least 500, and then you got to come back. Ain't just no telling how many people you could run over on the way back.
Said they right or run into the back of a flatbed truck.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
hard to say.
When you gonna fix your truck?
Well, probably I thought I'd wait till I got the money.
That always seems to slow down some of my projects too.
Well, it's not going to be as expensive as you go to
Ma-
a
ma-
body
ma-
shop.
Maybe the networks will pick up this show and we'll be rich when we get
Okay,
syndicated.
We could do like the Reverend. We could ask for donations, to fix my truck.
Yeah, get us an airplane.
That's what I was trying to do, is make an airplane out of it, but it wouldn't even fly over that truck.
I tell you what, anybody go that far to run over somebody you knows, I'd at least run over a stranger if I'd have been you.
Right? I think he's just sitting there waiting on me.
Yeah, I'd say he was.
Right. Well, what do you think about the state's regulation on parking signs down at the courthouse?
I don't know what they got.
Well, they made them take all those reserve signs down. They
Who
said,
was they reserved for?
well, this, this reserved for the judge, reserved for this person, reserved for the sheriff. Sheriff had everything in front of his jailhouse there, reserved for officers.
Yeah.
And the state come out with a ruling and said these parking places belong to the citizens. They don't belong to the sheriff's department. They don't belong to the judge. They don't belong to the other officials there at the courthouse. So they had to take all of the reserve signs down other than those for handicapped people. So now you can park right in front of the courthouse, or you can park right in front of the jailhouse, and there's not any more reserved parking spaces there.
So does the judge have to park down
He
at
has
the,
to park where we can find a parking
does he have to
spot.
park down at the library and walk up or
Pa-
on up the road there?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, he has to park where we can find a parking space.
I don't know. That's pretty good. I didn't know nothing about that. I don't keep up this local stuff. I'm so disgusted with all of them. I don't care what happens to them. I don't care if they have to walk from Grantsbury out there.
Well, I thought it was real interesting. It was not exactly local. That pertained to the entire state, and was an opinion that probably nationally will be upheld.
That's pretty good. They could park over at Walmart, couldn't they?
Probably, yeah.
Walk over.
If you can spend the night down there, that you can park over there.
They don't want you
You ever
spending
spent the
that
night in Walmart parking lot?
Several.
Several parking lots or several times?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I'm going. If I'm going on a long trip, which I do right often, if it, I don't like to stay there, but I do appreciate it. But if it's not working out good to get a campground for the night, I'll ask Walmart if I can stay, and if there ain't no city ordinance against it, usually they say yeah, and I'll spend the night. I get in late and leave early so I don't interfere with anything, and I always get out. I always buy something. I buy something every time. Even if I don't need it, I'll stock up on something. And I get out, and they've always got a bunch of shopping carts that's wandering around the parking lot. I get out and pick them things up and take them and house them up for them, so I kind of pay them away. But I've seen people set up grills and run their slides out and get their lawn chairs out and just make a total ass of themselves. I don't like that. That just ruins it for everybody, and Walmart has to go through and pick up their trash instead of them doing what they ought to do and helping Walmart pick up their trash.
Yeah, people are unappreciative for things that are done for them, and that's bad. That's one of the, you're talking about racism, just being concerned about other people. is a major concern in this country because most people are only concerned about themselves.
Well, I reckon 98% of the people that goes to a campground, national park, state park, and BLM, all them places, where you can stay sometimes free and sometimes at a reasonable price. I reckon every one of them people, you take 98 of them out of 100, thinks you can burn 10 full in beer cans, because they always leave that in the fire ring. You can't burn 10 full, but they seem to think they'll burn.
Yeah, well, I understand that. But, I'm not that way. I've camped all the way across this country and up and down the country and on the beaches and in the mountains. And I've never left a mess any time I've ever camped. Uh, I don't know why I do it, but I'll get out of my car. I was just thinking today, I went up to the post office and on the way back, I know there's several pieces of trash that had been thrown out there at the post office, and I picked them up, crumbled them up, and carried them back up and put them in the trash can.
Well, I do that. When I go to a campsite, I never leave it worse than I found it. Never.
Yeah, I don't either.
But I don't pick stuff up that other people left every time because I don't have time to do it, and a lot of these places they just pack it in, pack it out. You're supposed to take your garbage with you. They don't have any place to put it, and I don't necessarily have any place to put everybody's garbage either. But out here on the lake, out there at Windy Point, they've got 2 garbage cans out there.
Nobody seems able to hit it.
And they don't. First off, they got them bear-resistant garbage cans, and we ain't got no bear. You can't hardly get the doors open on them. And somebody took a hammer and beat one of them up. You couldn't open it at all. And I took a crowbar and fixed it. Well, fixed it, you get in it, but it's still. I don't know. Everybody that's designed for it must have had fingers foot and a half long, because mine just barely reach up in there to push that thing, and they ain't never been oiled. I have to take a stick to open it. But anyway, when they get full, instead of taking it with them, I mean, they brought it in, you'd think they could take it back out. But instead of doing that, they piled it up around the garbage can. If on the weekend, when they don't pick it up, just twice on the weekend, which they ain't gonna do, they usually about once every 2 weeks or something, but it'll be piled up. The pile will be bigger than the garbage cans.
Right. Yeah.
And they just go off and leave it, and the worst part about it is they'll pile it up and them there, and then they let their dog go out and scratch it around and throw it around everywhere, and they don't go pick it up again. The dog done that. That ain't my fault, they say, Anything else we need to complain about? I'm on a rant here.
Well, I don't know really. You just keep on ranting on.
Well, you think maybe that Uncle Joe's going to pick his running mate this week? He said he was, didn't he?
That's what I heard.
You reckon he can't get anybody to go with him? I don't know. They've had a lot of them interviewing for it. They just are dying to get to run.
Right. I understand on the Democratic convention that it's going to be a virtual convention, that nobody's going to travel, where is it, to Milwaukee? Where's the National Convention, Democratic Convention going to be held?
I don't know. They ain't going to have one, are they?
Yeah, they have one in Milwaukee, but it's going to be a virtual.
No.
It's going to be, ain't nobody going to be there, I don't reckon, except just a few technicians.
Well, I don't know. But, well, I'm going to vote for Trump. I don't care what else happens.
Yeah, I'm going to have to vote for Trump also,
Well, you know how much I hated him last time he run.
Well, I understand that, but when you look at the alternative of somebody that's probably going to serve 4 years if he lives long enough and not even know he served 4 years.
I don't even know he left home, will he?
Right.
Well, Trump is the only politician that I've ever, in my life, on any level, ever done what he said he was going to do. And he's done the best he could, I think, to keep his promises. And I liked what he was promising, but I didn't believe any of it.
Yeah. He's tried, against all opposition. He's had
Both sides.
all kind of obstacles put in his way that he shouldn't have had in his way. But he got them done in spite of that, and that's the reason they hate him. They cannot contain. They were not able to contain Trump and make him do their bidding, because he knew what he was going to do, and he went ahead and did it, even though they didn't want him to, and tried to keep him from it.
Well, his biggest problem was we've had this here clique up there that pretended like they were in opposition to each other, and they'd traded off occasionally, and I always, as soon as we get back in there, we're going to fix it. But we haven't hardly got enough. We can't hardly do it this time, but we'll get it next time, and then they get beat, and the others come in, and it's the same thing, and they just traded off. Been going on for generations, and they never go home. Once, especially a congressman, they in there for life if they want to be, and make a career out of it, and they'll say whatever they have to stay in office. Well, Trump goes in there, and he's not a politician, and he don't know how to play the way they play, and don't want to learn, and they all hate him because they're afraid he's going to let everybody see how low down the whole clique is.
Right. Well, he labeled those people too. He labeled some of them called the deep state. That they're ingrown. They're like an ingrown toenail, and if you cut it out, it grows back in. And so he labeled these people and named them and called them exactly what they were. If it were what it was journalism, or what it was congressmen, or non-elected officials, he named them and called them exactly what they were, and they didn't like that. Nobody likes to be told what they really are.
Well, whenever you tear up the established order for good or bad, and wherever it's at, you make enemies on both sides.
Actually, the worst thing you can do as a politician is to tell the truth.
What else? We'll hit as many bases as we can here and then get out of this place before they catch us. We don't want them to call in another airstrike.
What? You had a woman call in? You what?
I said we'll get out here before they zero in on us and call in another airstrike.
Yeah. What was it over in Beirut, You know what caused that explosion over in Beirut?
Fertilizer, wasn't it?
Yeah, sure was.
I heard there was 100,000 people homeless.
300,000.
Well, what in the world? Was they all piled in the same house or something? Well, I mean, that'd take out a few acres, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it took out a few acres, but they said it's 300,000 people homeless.
I just, I don't have a television. I ain't seen no pictures of it, but I heard there's, I don't know how many killed, but it amazed me there's that many homeless. If it tore up that many houses, or there's all 23 to the room or something.
There had to be. Have you ever been to San Francisco?
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Chinatown?
No.
Okay. Chinatown, they don't even know how many Chinese people live in.
That's why we do the census.
In San Francisco, no, you can't even count them. They will not be counted.
Oh.
Because they rent these single family units. They put about 15 families in there.
where is that there town? I think it may be in India, it may be in Cambodia. I don't remember. Maybe neither place. But they just kept building shacks on top of shacks, and it's just a maze, and just maybe 100,000 people live there, and big ramble shack houses stacked on top of each other, and they say these people lives there and never been outside the building. I don't know.
Well, what do they need to go outside for? You know, you got
Need to go out and pee every now and then.
No, they pee in the building, and they fish through the cracks in the floor, you know. So
You know, you see them there old movies and read the books, them there Dickens books about them people up in the second, third story of them there slum shacks in London, and they'd go out and empty their pot down on the street.
yeah,
That's yourn. No, that's hern. Mine'll be down in a minute.
well, you just don't ever know how the other half lives, and I think it would be good for some of these people who are protesting who act like they don't appreciate this country to have to go over to those areas and
Well, these
live.
people my generation and the last part of your life, I mean, you got in on how much of the Depression do you remember?
Well, I was born right in the middle of the Depression, and about the only thing I remember about it is what I was told.
Yeah,
of it,
well,
because we never missed a meal. We never did not have a roof over our head or some way to stay warm in the winter, and windows that we could open with no screens in the summertime so we could stay cool. So I don't really remember a whole lot about the Depression other than what I was told, and because I never went to bed on an empty stomach, and
well, you know, old H.L. Mencken really knocked them there malarial slums down south where all them hillbillies lived. He just hated hillbillies, but he was raised in Baltimore, and you talk about, I mean, they lined up there to get something to keep starving to death. Most of the people around here, I don't believe anybody around here ever went too hungry because they had the opportunity to make food. They didn't have any money. I mean, there wasn't no money to be had the way I've been told, but there wasn't no hunger unless somebody was just no count, or and not in the right mind. I don't think the people, the disabled people, the crippled and all that, they their neighbors took care of them. I don't believe there's much hunger went on here, but now you talk about, you look at the pictures, they look pretty deprived, their old wore out clothes and their shacks, but they was better off than the people in Baltimore where they was up there didn't know where they was going to have anything to eat or not.
it was hard to eat that concrete, you know.
Yeah, I know it. But this, my generation, and especially the ones younger than me, was raised to think that they were due a living. It was always going to be there. It was theirs, and it couldn't be lost. It just, you know, you're not going to worry about starving to death or having somewhere to stay because that's just there. They don't realize that if they throw it away, if they decide that they don't like capitalism, they hopefully, if they get what they want, hopefully they'll live long enough to see what it does for them.
Right. Well, capitalism, you know, it has its faults, as does everything. But anytime you eliminate the profit motive and
And the
eliminate
responsibility.
and responsibility that people have for their own welfare, you have created a bona fide group of people that's not worth nothing.
Well, we just have to wait and see how this thing works out.
I know in my home during the Depression, my dad had a full-time job. He was with the Southern Railway. He had seniority from 1917 on up to the Depression. And so if somebody took his job, he'd take somebody else's job who had less seniority than he. So we didn't have any money that I know of, even though my daddy probably was one of the few in the community that had a regular paycheck coming in every month or every 2 weeks. I don't even know how they got paid because I didn't know my daddy ever had any money. But he had money. We owned our own home. We owned our own little farm there. Everything we had, we owned. And the only bill that was ever made was Mama might charge something at the grocery store, but if Daddy found out about it, he went right over and paid it off, because he didn't believe in charging anything anywhere. So we lived pretty good. We always had plenty of beans and plenty of potatoes and plenty of vegetables, and the only meat my dad would let us eat would be fish and chicken, and it could not be fried. It had to be either baked, broiled, or boiled, and that's the way I was raised. We drank no soft drinks. There was no soda pops ever allowed in our house.
I guess that's why he died so young, ain't he?
Right? Yeah, he did. He died one day short of being 100, and
I'd have held my breath for 24 hours, I believe.
I was watching something on the computer yesterday, and do you remember the actress Olivia de Havilland?
Yeah. She's
You know,
103 or 4, ain't she?
104 years old.
Yeah.
And still moving around.
It's still ornery, I reckon.
Yeah. I thought that was just amazing. I had an aunt that lived to be 107, and I had 3 other aunts that lived to be over 100.
It's on your daddy's side?
On my daddy's side, yeah. And my son-in-law had 2 aunts that were the oldest living aunts, oldest living twins in the world. They were 114 years old, and Ronald Reagan made a special call to them in the 80s when they had their 114th birthday.
Well, how old did they? How close together did they die? Are they still alive?
No. About a year later, one died and one lived about a year longer. And you know what? How both of them made their living? Each family, they married, of course, into different families. But each one of those families had its own personal gold mine there in Randolph County.
You saying gold or coal? Gold?
Gold.
Well, now, I wouldn't care to have a gold mine.
Right. Well, that's what they had. They had their own personal gold mine. And those mines are still there, the entrances and everything. I think one of them might be being worked now.
Well, my family never had no oil wells or gold mines.
Mine neither.
I'm about ready to go, Bob. What about
Well,
you?
I think so too. I think have we insulted anybody tonight?
I hope so.
Okay, I do too. And folks, if not, we'll be back next week to insult
Get another shot at you.
somebody else.
We're gone. Bye-bye.